Now, this walk, the fiscal solvency, raises, I think, interesting opportunities for our state. I want to talk to you about a couple of them today. There are two steps that I'm recommending to our fellow citizens that I think can take us from where we are to a position truly as a national leader, as a model, as a capital of taxpayer protection. And I want to talk about those two ideas and perhaps enlist a little help from you. The first step is to finish the job on property tax reduction. The caps, which are now in statute, that say that no Hoosier will pay more than 1% on the value of his or her house, more than 2% on the value of the farm or rental property, more than 3% on any other business property. These are almost unique in America. Only a few states have them, and only one state I can find has anything that's as firm and low as this. But this job is not final. Those caps are only in statute. We've taken the first of what must be 3 steps to make them permanent and constitutional. The legislature has voted once to submit this to a referendum of the people. A second vote under our law must occur, and then you, the people, get a chance to vote. I'm very confident that if the people of Indiana get that chance, they're going to vote to lock in these caps and this unique in America protection. We have to make sure that that vote happens and that it comes soon. Here are the members of the Indiana General Assembly from the region in which we are meeting. I'm happy to say that the vast, vast majority voted once already to make the caps permanent, or at least to give you the right to vote for them. I'm going to be traveling Indiana these next 3 months, or 6 months, I hope, until the General Assembly gets here, urging Hoosiers to ask their legislators, please, let us vote. Cast that second vote that we did the first time. More than 2/3, I'm so proud to say, in this bipartisan accomplishment, more than 2/3 of the members of both parties, in both houses, have cast this vote once. All we're asking is that they do so again. But I think every legislator or candidate or aspirant for the legislature ought to be asked, yes or no, will you let the people of Indiana vote to put these caps beyond the reach of any judge, beyond the reach of any future General Assembly, to renege, to retract, to take away? We are this close to having some of the lowest property taxes in America and a unique set of maximums protecting every Indiana taxpayer. As business people, you know that in addition to the value of low taxation, certainty itself has an advantage. Knowing for sure that a home's property taxes will never skyrocket, that a business property taxes are limited, will be kept below some limit, some maximum, has value all on its own. It will further enhance Indiana's improving reputation as a great place to do business. And it will make us a capital of home ownership. So I am very hopeful that you as citizens, the active citizens you are, belong to this organization, will in the friendliest and most encouraging way possible visit with folks who want to be in the next General Assembly and ask them to be on the yes side of this resolution when it comes before them. And we will take that last step together as a state, and we will establish Indiana as a national model in low, permanently low property tax protection. Now, a second idea. Having arrived at the position, or at least approached the position of fiscal sufficiency that I just talked about, budget balanced, all debts paid, and a healthy savings account, rainy day funds in reserve, I think allows Hoosiers for the first time in many, many years to ask themselves this question: at what point should government stop collecting money from a free people? At what point should the government recognize that these dollars belong to free men and women and should only be collected for an essential government purpose, and then should only be spent with exquisite care, never waste a dollar without, if it can be avoided? of fiscal sufficiency. And so I've been spending a lot of time thinking about what system we might put in place that further protects taxpayers. Is there a trigger point at which we recognize that every dollar extracted from a taxpayer's wallet by government is a diminution of freedom by that little increment? If that dollar were left with you as a taxpayer, you could freely choose to spend it on something important to you or your family or your business. And so, as a first matter of principle, and then a matter of practicality, I have a suggestion to make. Matter of principle is, it's your money. It's your money. It's not the government's money to concede to you when it goes to you. And the practical matter is this: the government gets its hands on it, it's likely to spend it. Worse yet, to commit to spending it in future years, sometimes to its regret and always to the taxpayer's regret. B.J. O'Rourke once said that giving the legislature an unlimited ability to spend money was the equivalent of handing car keys and alcohol to teenage boys. It's something you want to be very careful about doing. Those other states, in the red on that map I showed you a minute ago, by and large are victims to this phenomenon. A few years ago, when we were broke, they were flush. What did they do? Imagining that the good times would roll on, they committed a new spending program, which now they can't afford, and they are undoing them, or worse, in the fashion that I depicted for you. And so, I suppose my summing up my view on this subject, better the money stay in your pocket than burn a hole in theirs. So here's my suggestion: an automatic taxpayer refund. A dividend, if you will, but automatic in our law that says that at the point of fiscal sufficiency, and we can debate what that is. The fiscal experts think 10%. They recommend 8 to 10% of your next budget as a protective cushion, but maybe it's more. This we can talk about. For sake of today, let's just say 10%. Anything above that, I suggest, ought to be refunded automatically to taxpayers on their next tax return. For my money, I would do this per capita. This refund would mean more to a low-income person than to a prosperous person, but some may disagree with that. That's simply my suggestion. I would simply do it as a straightforward credit on the next income tax filings. Total simplicity, ease of administration. But the point is very simple. The state would collect only what it needs to provide essential services and protect itself against the downturn, and to have an adequate reserve. Above that, the money stays with the taxpayer to be spent on family needs, to be reinvested in a thriving economy, growing investments that a growing economy needs. I looked at approaches taken in other states. A couple of states have done this on a one-off basis. Minnesota a few years ago. In Oklahoma, there's a legal limit on the size of the rainy day funds, and once they had it remade. But I would make ours automatic. I would make it also, I hope, a permanent feature of life in the family. It would not tie the hands, as some other limitation measures have, of future state governments. In any year in which reserves dip below the stated protective level, there'd be no refund. It would only happen in those years in which the state was solvent with a larger than necessary bank. It's my view, it's my guess anyway, that we would have a new set of incentives for our legislators. Incentives that lead them in the direction of caution in spending public dollars. Knowing that if we could pass budgets that left more than 10%, or more than the state level, in reserve, their constituents would all get a tax cut, and that they could rightly take credit for it. Possibly we could reverse an incentive which too often, certainly in those other states we looked at, leads legislators to want to spend more and more and more, curry public favor by doing so, sometimes to the eventual detriment of the state. probably not a lot of money involved. If we had a 10% stipulation in law in the earlier years, we'd have had something like $300 a family in 1 year and something less in other years. It's more a matter of principle than it is the money of the hardworking people of Indiana than it is the likely size of the dollars. I will tell you that if we're in law today, the fiscal year 09 that Ryan and I are wrestling with already, very uncertain, perhaps unlikely there would be such a refund. Because it'll be a test all year to make sure we keep spending in line with flat revenue. Still, I think the principle is important. I think the opportunity is important. So the goal here in these two suggestions is to create for our state of Indiana a new position and a deserved reputation as the most taxpayer-friendly, taxpayer-protective state in America. A place where people are not charged unduly to live in a home they saved for, or to farm the land that may have been in the family for generations. A place where there is certain, an upper boundary on what government can take, either in the taxation of property or the taxation of hard income. In every measure, as they're piling up now, of attractiveness to new growth, to new investment, to new business and jobs, and the people. Indiana is rising and rising fast. We're a top 5, top 10 state, no matter who looks. Forbes magazine, the nation's CEO, American Legislative Exchange Council, one after another, to see there's something going on in this place called Indiana. I will tell you that last month, in the midst of national stagnation, our Economic Development Corporation had the best month ever in signing new transactions to bring new jobs to this state. The second best month ever in terms of the number of jobs, more than 3,000 that represents. There is momentum, there is energy, there's an attractiveness about our state now that augurs so well for the future of the young people in this state. Before we know it, Gina and kids her age will be sitting where you are. We have a duty and a golden opportunity to leave to them, to the future citizens, business leaders, Rotarians, Hoosiers of all kinds, a world and a state of enormous opportunity, prosperity, a higher quality of life that comes with it. And I think these two ideas today that I've laid before you are more building blocks, more long, long steps along that road of fiscal sufficiency, responsibility, and economic hope on which we, I believe, have embarked. Thank you for this opportunity and for the questions I now welcome.